How are we doing, Kansas Jayhawks fans? This is your host, Nick Rondeau, bringing at you some Jayhawks Daily content, and we had the result. Not the one that we were hoping for. We dropped the game to UNC, unfortunately. Bill Self Squad did not look excellent. It had a fine first half, but just an uninspired second half, and we got some takeaways because snapped a 5 game win streak over UNC, spread across many years. True road test. Couple of concerns outside of obviously the star-studded effort of Darren Peterson once again, and it just kind of brings up more of our bigger beliefs and feelings that this team may not have it outside of Darren Peterson, and it rests on his shoulders. But when he gets eliminated, or at the very least, kind of put in a difficult position, this Kansas team, what do they have left? And it was not pretty. So Kansas, like I said, drops to UNC 87-74, letting up over 58 points in the second half. Just not what you want to see. It was a very, I would have to say, disappointing game. It was a fun first half. Darren Peterson had another great performance. 29 minutes played. He had 22 points. 3 of 5 from three again, and it's unfortunate to see how it kind of went out. So kind of going at just about it in the game recap. Some takeaways that I had, and things that we're seeing is our biggest concerns for this game were 100% that what is this team going to look like when Darren Peterson's either not on the court, when Darren Peterson's having an off game, and in the first half we saw that we have another guy. And his name is Bryson Tiller, and he can shoot really well. He's shooting from the season now 83% from three, 70% from the field, which is crazy. But we're a couple games in. This is really nothing. But we wanted to see. Darren Peterson came out. He had 2 fouls with about I think it was about 10 to go, and he sat for about 3 minutes. I think they put him back in about the 7 minute mark, and in those 3 minutes we couldn't score. We couldn't play. We had a 7 point lead evaporate immediately, and Darren came back in, and the team looked fine again. And it just makes up a bigger concern of where is this team's identity when Darren Peterson is not on the court, when he's not playing his best, and God forbid if he was to get injured, how badly would this season go? And it really seems like the only other scorer we kind of have is Bryson Tiller on this team because no one else showed up to play. I mean, just some horrible performances from a lot of players on this team. And, you got to give credit to where credit's due. Hubert Davis he outcoached Bill. Bill had no answers. They scored over 40 points in the paint. I believe the total number was 48 points in the paint. And we got out rebounded 27 to their 39 rebounds. So by a double-digit margin, like I'm saying, out-rebounded by 12. We let up over 16, I believe, offensive rebounds. Just things that you can't see, as a fan. These are just not typical trademark things of a Kansas team, of a Bill Self team, and it brings up major concerns. When Flory's not grabbing every single rebound. Melvin's not fighting for him. Darren's not fighting for him. Who's getting the rebounds? Because it's very disappointing to. This is going to be a bummer. That's just what it was. It was just a bummer of a game. But the thing is you got to look at it another way. The last couple of years, we've been winning those games. We've had very great starts to the seasons, very few losses, and we know how those seasons have turned out. They did not turn out in our favor, so maybe it could be different, but. The biggest concerns just really have to press down. Yes, what is this team's identity without Darren Peterson? I mean, Melvin Council was 2 of 11 from the field, 0 for 4 from 3. Don't know why he was taking 4 threes. He let up a couple at the end when we were down by a lot, but just not great. He was a fine distributor, had 7 assists to I think his 2 turnovers, but from a guy that we have on the court the second most, only behind Flory, and I think Darren, would have been in for probably a similar amount of time if it weren't for the foul trouble. Melvin's just got to score more. His float game was fine, but not really. I mean, there were a couple of rim outs, and you thought, oh, they'll drop soon. They'll drop. They never did, and it really wasn't even that. It was just it was the defensive effort for me that really stuck out because defensively, this is supposed to be a team, like I say, top 10 in the country in defense, and we play our offense based off our defense, and our defense did not dictate the game. Their offense dictated ours. Hubert Davis had some great set plays, and just he really had a great answer to the punch that we kind of threw in the first half. The punches we had in the first half, they weren't answering them that well. We were looking very well, and when they realized that we switch every single kind of thing, Visar, the paint was wide open for him. And Caleb Wilson is, again, an unbelievable freshman that will go top 10 in the NBA draft next year. He was the best freshman on the court, I guess you can say. I mean, Darren Peterson was, again, 3 for 5 from 3, 8 from 14 from the field, and 22 points. And I think he even added a couple of steals with that, but it just wasn't enough to get the win, and that didn't inspire the team enough. And it's disappointing because Darren Peterson's plus minus was probably one of the few people that was around in the plus territory. There just wasn't anything. There was no scoring off the bench really, besides one bright spot, and it's Bryson Tiller. And I'm going to be bouncing around a lot, just kind of recapping this game, but you gotta give the flowers to Bryson Tiller coming in hot with an unbelievable performance. 4 for 4 from 3, 4 of 5 from the field, missing only one. But he played 15 minutes and he fouled out with over 10 minutes to go in the game, essentially eliminating all hope of coming back because he was the only guy that could score outside Darren Peterson. Flory did not look great. He looked fine, but Visar kind of had his way with him, could have done whatever he wanted, and offensively, we just weren't getting it from Flory. The passing wasn't there. The two-man screen game was pretty much negated very well. They had incredible help defense, and for some reason, we just could not find that extra pass. Every single time I was saying, we're going to have that two-man game, they're going to clear out, they're going to pull the help defender. We got to find the corner guy, and it worked a couple times because that's where Bryson Tiller was. But beyond him, no one was making those shots. Trey White, 1 for 4 from 3, not pretty. Cole Rosario is the only other decent bright spot, I would have to say, and it wasn't. It was. He was hustling. He was doing his best. Again, the guy has taken almost no dribbles within the 3-point line, so he's going to be a very one-dimensional player. Clearly, I'm not the other. I'm not the eyes of the other coaches, but they've got to see at the same time that he has not done anything besides take threes and hustle and rebound. The best way he can, but. He was the only other guy that really made an impact from behind the line. Marco hit a 3 late. The 3-point ball really was something that we can't say that it didn't work out for us because we shot 48% from 3, 12 from 25, something that we thought would be a concern. But again, allowing over 14 turnovers was very disappointing to see. It's not exactly a Bill Self trademark, but it's also not enough to sink a team. What's enough to sink a team is allowing almost 50 points in the paint. 48 points in the paint is horrendous. Getting out rebounded by that much, it's ridiculous. And they just did whatever they wanted. They absolutely did. Keon Evans was a maestro from the point, kind of did whatever he wanted, but it's just they really had the answer for all of our switches, and I don't know. I don't know what to go from here. It's a very difficult position to be in. It's a position that we have not been in a couple of years. We've taken these games again, like I've said, but silver lining to that is we've taken those games and the season have gone terrible. We have not. We've dealt with adversity later in the season and crumbled. Maybe the adversity now is going to change them. Maybe it's going to jumpstart them because it was just an uninspired performance. It really was. It was Darren Peterson doing his best to keep it close at the end. That was about it. And beyond that, like I said, there was no one who could step up. Bryson Tiller stepped up for a brief period of time when he was on the court. He was excellent. He was a key reason why we went into the first half with a lead. Came in and just his when he fouled out, he was 94 feet from the basket. Like it's a ridiculous way to foul out. It's foolish. It makes no sense, and that's just kind of how the game was going to go. Right out of the gates of the second half, when they went on a 7-point run, Bill takes a quick timeout, which that's what he does, and then he took another one, and with 2 minutes after that, it was just done. It was never going to come back. It was this team had very little fight in them, I would say, and Thank you, El Marco, for looking okay coming off the bench when the game meant nothing. Jamari McDowell didn't really provide anything. Paul Mbia only coming in when Bryson Tiller got, fouled out, and Paul Mbia did absolutely nothing. I mean, like, he played 3 minutes, didn't put up a stat. I mean, it's just like you can't expect really much at that point in the game. But we are again a couple of games into this season, and Trey White is nowhere to be found. Yes, he's hit a couple of threes in the exhibition, and he's okay, but he played the least of the starters besides Cole Rosario. Only playing 3 more minutes than Cole Rosario at 23 minutes in this game. Yeah, he was 3 for 6 and 1 for 4 from the 3 point line, but 2 rebounds, 4 turnovers. He really only got it. He was somewhat aggressive from the free throw or in the paint, and that's why he got to the free throw line 4 times. But it just there was really not too many things to pull from this game and say, wow, that was excellent. And yes, we were in Chapel Hill. It was a very difficult environment. We had a bunch of great, alums on both sides stepping up. Mario Chalmers was at the game. A couple of Kansas and UNC connections as well that were together. But it was an uninspired performance from Bill Self, and it's just something that we don't typically see this early in the season. Usually Bill's got him ready to go, and I really do have to, kind of shout this one out. Like, Melvin Council is supposed to be a great player for us this year. And, he just wasn't there. He was getting dominated. He was not, an excellent defensive player. Like I said, like Seth Trimble played excellent defense. He made it so it was almost impossible for Darren Peterson to catch the ball, to put the ball on the floor, and to really impact the game. And again, Darren Peterson was 8 for 14, but at the same time, didn't help. It wasn't a stat that helped the team win. It was a I'm an incredible basketball player. I can put in this ball into that basket at a higher rate than anyone out here, but at the end of the day, I can't impact winning because no one around me besides the guy who fouled out again in 15 minutes. I mean, it was terrible. It was an awful performance all around. I just, you have to, again, shout out a couple of the guys who showed up to play, and Darren Peterson, again, is going to have to show up to one. But Bill Self even said after the game, Seth Trimble played excellent defense, like I just mentioned. And, he held Darren to 14 shot attempts. And he was like, to actually win that game, Darren Peterson's got to shoot the ball about 25 times. And that's terrifying. That is terrifying that we are a team. This is what we've been expecting. This is what we assume. But that Darren Peterson has to shoot the ball 20 times for us to have a chance to beat a top 25 team. It's just not good enough. It's not going to be a recipe that is going to get you, the trademark 28 plus wins that really, solidify we're one of the best teams in the conference. Big 12 play has got me concerned even more. Yeah, the 3 point ball's going in, but the defense, again, over almost 60 points let up in the second half. UNC came out absolutely storming. Visar did whatever he wanted. Absolutely whatever he wanted. Caleb Wilson did whatever he wanted. There was no paint presence. Floyd Badunga, did he affect any shots? Did he have a block? Maybe he did. I mean, they did whatever they wanted, and more often than not, it wasn't even that they were contested paint, points in the paint. They were uncontested because the defense wasn't there. They would lose a backdoor cutter, they would lose their man. It came to the point where almost every single one of them were open shots, and they had a lot of open threes as well. They left a lot of meat on that bone. If you're asking me, they only shot 8 for 27 from three, which again is not great, but they left a lot of meat out there because they had some wide open looks that they were missing, and they were having wide open looks that they put on the floor. A lot of time, like Seth Trimble did go 0 for 5 from 3, but he put the ball in, or sorry, he was not 0 for 5. Yes, he was 0 for 5 from 3, but he would put the ball on the floor, attack the rim, get fouled, or find another person right next to him. Find a cutting Caleb Wilson because he was excellent. 9 for 12, 24 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, only 1 turnover. He was just absolutely destroying us. And Jaren Stevenson, the other big starter for that lineup when Luka Bojevac comes into the game for him. Honestly, I don't even think they played that much better. But he was incredible. I think he had like 6 offensive rebounds, and it's not like we allowed a lot of second chance points. I believe it was under 10, but just allowing more possessions, it was just more tiring. The defense was worn down, and it just turned into a lot of easy baskets that I just think it's going to be difficult for this team to really comprehend and come back. But we've got time. We've got a couple. We've got Corpus Christi tomorrow, 8 p.m. We'll preview a little bit of that game tomorrow. We'll talk about what we kind of need to see, obviously, and we'll have another game. We play Princeton later in the week, but we got Duke coming up, and I don't know about you, but I'm not trying to get swept by Tobacco Road. That's not going to be a good feeling about this Kansas team. We do not lose both games, and I think it's fair to say, maybe not fair to say, but you kind of have to. That Duke team is just better than this UNC team. This UNC team is a great team. I really do. I think they're going to have a strong presence in the ACC. They're really going to compete. I thought they were going to be, maybe a top 3 team for sure, maybe 4, depending on how NC State and Will Wade turn out. But it looks like they could be competing for that ACC championship because Duke has not looked excellent in their first couple of games, and UNC has, because that was a trademark performance. They were offensive rebounding well. They were dominating in the paint like they always could, and Keon Evans was an excellent point guard for them, really just doing whatever he wanted at will. But, he was rebounding better than some of our players. Seth Trimble with 8 rebounds, just more than anyone on our team. You can't have that. Florida was 7 rebounds in 36 minutes. You got to get more production from there. But it's one game at the end of the day. Doesn't count for 2. Doesn't hurt our conference record. It just kind of hurts our non-conference, resume. And we know how it is. We're the Kansas Jayhawks. Our resume is hopefully not going to matter by the end of the year. We're going to put up over 25 wins, and we'll solidify, a chance for that at-large bid, or maybe we go on a conference tournament run because Darren Peterson's playing lights out in March or something, and we've got an auto bid. But at the end of the day, it's only one game, and we got a lot of basketball left. I just hope it starts to look a little bit better. I know Darren Peterson's looking exactly what we hoped, and we're still 1-1. And it's just weird to say. Like, I thought if Darren Peterson was playing his ball, then we would have been fine. But Flory Badunga, 4 of 9, 8 points, 7 rebounds it's just not going to cut it for you. He's either got to take more shots, he's either got to make more shots, but more than anything, if you're not going to help us out on the offensive end, which we very much need you to, because that 2-man game's got to be creative. It's got to be more than just, one note Cole as well. You've got to be a lockdown defensive player, and he was far from it today. Caleb Wilson did whatever he wanted. Bryson Tiller, excellent offensive performance, just a nightmare defensive performance with 5 fouls in 15 minutes. And you back to the drawing board. That's all you can say about this game. We're back to the drawing board. We're forgetting it. We're watching the film. We're learning from it. We're seeing how poorly we played defensively, how bad we rebounded, and then we're thinking, we got 2 warm-up games, 2 games to really prepare for Duke next week, because that Duke game is going to be difficult. They have so much young talent. They're so fresh. And the thing is, with Duke, like I'm saying, kind of struggling to begin this year, they may be struggling, but they're young. They're a bunch of freshmen. They're a bunch of, young new blood into that system. And they could have a bad game or they could have an amazing game, because that talent, they are loaded. But, we even saw Purdue kind of, almost suffer a scare early on. We saw Houston have a little bit of a scare. They were a tight game, both of those in the second half. But it's early into the season. Teams are going to get gelling. This Kansas Jayhawks team will gel at some point. Darren Peterson will continue his path to try to win Big 12 Player of the Year, become that 5th freshman to do it. He's going to keep doing it to try to be Naismith Player of the Year. It's going to have some tough competition, apparently, with Caleb Wilson that I don't think anyone thought of, but it's just one game. Gotta work from it. Gotta expect a lot more out of everyone, especially out of this veteran leadership and, Melvin Council, Trey White, Jaden Dawson, Flory Badunga, I guess you're going to put in that category, but need a lot more out of those guys. But thank you guys so much for watching, even though we lost. Appreciate you guys sticking around. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know your thoughts on the game. Let me know anything you think I covered wrong, or, what I got right. But I appreciate you guys for watching and listening. Rock Chalk. Go Jayhawks.